Money, money, money. Doctor Who's got it. What's he gonna spend it on? Hi, I'm Phil. Welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I like and consume, and a lot of that is Doctor Who. So if you like Doctor Who, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button and just maybe the bell button as well. Just hit all the buttons. Today we're talking about money. Because Doctor Who is going to have a lot of it, apparently, according to a recent report. Its budget is tripling. Now, that may be not mean much to you, because you may not know what they had originally. But according to the reports, their budgets for per episode currently were around 1 to 3 million per episode, depending on the episode. And it's now going to be approaching 10 million. So pretty much tripled from that 3 million top to a sort of 10 million top per episode now, which is a big jump for a show to make, which should improve its quality massively. But how? What kind of ways? Where are they going to spend this money? That's what we're going to look at in this video. I apologise if my throat is a bit croaky today. I am unfortunately suffering with the sea. The thing we've all been avoiding for the last 2.5 years finally got me. Or trying to avoid. Some of you probably not successfully. Now me not successfully. I've avoided it for 2.5 years, but now I've got it. So sympathy in the comments, please. I'm struggling through. Very low energy levels, I'm afraid. But I'm going to persevere with this video to get it out. So first of all, a little recap in case you weren't aware of where this news came from. How reputable is it? Because it is kind of speculation, rumour territory. It's not absolutely confirmed officially by the production team what their budgets are going to be. So how seriously should we take this? I've seen that debate on Twitter, people going, well, you shouldn't be talking about these rumours. Now, I would say, because of the source of the news, which was originally Broadcast Magazine, which is, if you don't know, is the industry magazine for the broadcasting industry. This is the magazine that, when I was doing media production at university, this is the magazine that all of our lecturers told us to get every week, because it would have the latest information about the broadcasting industry, also about technology for the broadcasting industry, jobs for the broadcasting industry. It was the newspaper / magazine for the broadcasting industry. So they are very well connected to the industry and they kind of know what they're talking about. Now that doesn't mean that they get everything right. It doesn't mean that there isn't an element of speculation in there. But I trust this a lot more than I would trust it if it was, say, coming from the Daily Mirror or, I don't know, some random website on the internet that just reports on Doctor Who news. It was certainly re-reported on those sort of sites, but the original article comes from Broadcast Magazine, so I'm going to give it at least a little bit of credence. It may turn out to be not entirely accurate, who knows, but I think it, because of the source, it's probably enough validity to talk about it. Now you may also be wondering, well, okay, 10 million, what does that mean? How much do other shows that Doctor Who might be competing with cost to make? Well, God, BuzzFeed has a nice article for us, credit them, that comes from September the 26th, and how much each episode of certain TV shows over the years has cost to make. Game of Thrones, first season, which was quite a low budget season for it, I think. They didn't have, this is before they had dragons, this is before they really got into the White Walker stuff. You didn't really see them. So there was obviously a lot of set and costumes costs, but probably not so much in the graphics department. But season 1 was 6 million an episode, so it's more than Game of Thrones season 1, but you do have to factor in inflation as well. That was 10 years ago. A more up-to-date comparison in the same franchise, House of the Dragon, 20 million an episode. It has dragons in almost every episode. I've been watching it. So there's a lot of CGI going on there, and that has a budget of twice as much as Doctor Who's going to have. So there's definitely a difference there. This is Doctor Who's not going to be quite playing up to the budget levels of those type of shows, but it's definitely better than 2 to 3 million. Stranger Things season 4, the last season, 30 million episode, even more than House of Dragon. A lot of budget went into Stranger Things. I'm looking for the kind of genre shows mostly on this because, there's not much use comparing sitcoms to Doctor Who in terms of budget. They've got very different costs. They have a lot of actor costs when they get into their higher seasons, but the production costs aren't as much. But we've got like Walking Dead season 1, again a long time ago, $3.4 million per episode. as opposed to 10 million, which we've got now. But again, inflation, that was season 1, that was a long, like 15 years ago, something like that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, another thing that's on Disney Plus, which is where Doctor Who's going to be everywhere outside of the UK, 25 million in episodes. So Doctor Who will have just over a third of the budget of the Marvel shows. The Mandalorian, obviously another Disney series, 15 million an episode. Not that much more, actually. 5 million more. That you can do a lot with 5 million, but it's not excessively more. That just gives you a rough idea of where we're playing with in terms of budget. Actually, I did see one that was on the same sort of budget. Let me find that one. The Witcher. The Witcher is 10 million an episode. So I haven't seen The Witcher, but if you know what The Witcher does with its budget, Doctor Who will be able to do similar. So saying all of that, what do we think they're going to spend the money on? I mean, obviously it will be spread out across various different things, but here's a few of them that I think. The most obvious one, I think, is the CGI. Now, Doctor Who CGI hasn't been terrible. It's been okay for the most part. We've had some dodgy scenes in there where they've, ropey Daleks flying type CGI in there occasionally where we've really noticed it. Most of the time, I think we get along just fine with it, but that doesn't mean it can't be up to another level. Really realistic textured creatures with fur and all sorts of things that could really make the monsters stand out more than they are. Imagine redoing the Slitheen, which always looked bad to me, even in Series 1 when they did the CGI Slitheen, with a 10 million budget. You could improve them so much. And I think so at least a large portion of the budget is going to go to CGI. A greater amount and more interesting extras. And what I mean by more interesting is that, well, let's start with the more actually. If you want to set a story on a busy alien metropolis, what you really want is lots and lots and lots of people. And often what we get in Doctor Who is we get a view down like a corner of a side street of that city, and you might have 5 or 6 extras milling around in the background. But you look at something like Star Wars and they go to cities and they have hundreds of extras there. And the more interesting part, again with Star Wars, is that they look very different. They don't all look humanoid. One thing about Doctor Who, especially with the extras, is that they will often go for a more humanoid looking alien because it's cheaper. It's less prosthetics or CGI or whatever you want to do with them. But with more money, like Star Wars does, you have completely random, strange, exotic looking aliens just as the background characters. Whereas Doctor Who will do interesting looking aliens, look at the Fisher King or something like that, but they will do them as that's the main villain of the episode. They'll spend the money on the main villain. Whereas the background extras will tend to be a bit more just generic human looking, but maybe with a different coloured skin or maybe with some tattoos on their faces or something like that. So I think we're going to get a lot bigger crowd scenes when they go to alien worlds, and they're going to be full of variety of different type of aliens, the likes of which we don't see very often in Doctor Who, and they'll just be background aliens. They won't even be ones that the Doctor interacts with. Just like there'll be a really elaborate alien that just walks across the background of a scene, and this money will allow things like that. On a similar thing, bigger sets. Like I said before, we get like maybe a corner of a street in a metropolis or something like that, or maybe 1 or 2 streets of a metropolis. We could have elaborate sprawling sets. Now, they're not necessarily going to go with this every week, but I mean, if it serves the purpose of the story, then, and it will make the episode feel more epic, then they can absolutely do this. And how that could be used is maybe you could build an elaborate complex and have really elaborate and interesting tracking shots through it. A whole one shot following one character through a whole complex. Now, we did kind of get that a little bit with Power of the Doctor, so I'm not saying that was completely unachievable, because what we did get with Power of the Doctor was Ashad going through the unit base, and he did go through many rooms, many corridors, and I think it was just one shot tracking him, and that was fantastic. It looked great. But being able to do that more often by building the sets big enough to do it, which costs money, is going to be another benefit of having this increased budget. Talking of shots, of course, just generally better visual effects, not just the CGI, but the practical ones as well. So whether or not you're using practical models, practical explosions, being able to spend the money on getting them bigger, better, the cameras that you're using, basically that money going on screen through the technology they use and the way they achieve the stunts and the effects. You can do bigger stunts with the actors or with the stunt doubles, and just make it look really epic almost every single episode if you wanted to. They could give it even more of a worldwide scope. Now, let's be honest, traditionally Doctor Who has been very UK focused. It's a UK show, so that makes sense. But with the funding coming in from Disney, with the push to expand its audience base outside of the UK more, I think they're going to want to travel to different parts of the world a bit more. Now, Chibnall has done that very well, in fact. He has included stories set all over the world, not just because when we got that during the Russell and Moffat eras as well, but it tended to be you'd get 1 or 2 stories in a season set out of the UK for them, or set in a different country on Earth, let's say, because they'd have obviously one set in space. But I think maybe we'll get more stories set around the world in different countries, and they'll actually travel to them, and they'll actually film there, and they can film in big, next to huge, well-known monuments. They can, whereas before I think they got, establishing shots at things like the Eiffel Tower, not the Eiffel Tower, Daleks in Manhattan, Empire State Building. They got like establishing shots, but David Tennant didn't go there. And they got some establishing shots of the pyramids, but I don't think Peter Capaldi went there when they, at the End of the World thing, when they were there. So being able to actually take the actors there and do scenes in front of these big monuments or on these big monuments would also be another benefit. And of course, using foreign locations as alien worlds as well, giving us a bit more of a variety than just good old Cardiff countryside and quarries, scope it out a bit. Also, not just locations, but going back to the visual effects thing, actually I should have stuck this in there. Went a bit Sean Connery there. Disney, famously for The Mandalorian, used that amazing sort of new style green screen where it surrounds you and it's projected onto it, so the actors can actually see what they're acting against as it's recorded, and it looks really good. Using that type of technology, which again is expensive, is now available to them probably with these budgets. More high profile guest actors is another one. Now, as I said, they'll be going all over the world. Maybe they could use actors from all over the world as well, high profile from the areas that they're visiting. But also, Hollywood stars as well. We can get some really big, previously unaffordable people, maybe in guest roles. How big they could go, I don't know, because I don't know how much people charge. But they could definitely go bigger than they have been so far. And they've had some great guest stars before, don't get me wrong. But they can go bigger now. Maybe like Oscar Isaac, he'd be good. Tom Hanks, let's go with Tom Hanks. Who else? Let's get some women. Jamie Lee Curtis, why not? Give her a go. Halle Berry, maybe? I don't know. I don't know if these people would want to be in Doctor Who, but why not see if there's a role for them that they would fit? Big A-list Hollywood stars. See if they'll be in it. Why not? With this type of money, you might be able to get them. I don't know. Maybe I'm aiming still too high for some of those, but I reckon we can get definitely even more expensive actors than we've gotten so far for guest roles. What do you think? Who would you want, if money was no object, who would you want them to cast as a guest role in Doctor Who? Anybody in the world, anybody, any actor, however famous, that is still alive, let's be realistic to a degree. Who would you want to cast? And there we go. That's kind of some things I think they could do with the money. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And what do you think they'll spend the most on? Is it going to be CGI? Is it going to be actors? Is it going to be something else that I haven't mentioned? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll be back for more Doctor Who videos soon. Goodbye.